This is the rider of a band called Van Halen, and what they did was they specified in their rider. A rider is what basically a band gives a new venue. So if they were coming here, they would say to the Provident Hotel, here's the rider, here's what we want and what we don't want. And they always put no brown M&Ms. And this was done by design, not because they didn't care about brown M&Ms, but because they wanted to test whether the actual location read the rider. And as David Lee Roth says, which I think is pretty interesting, if he saw brown M&M, line check the entire production. You have to realize they've got scaffolding, they have heavy, heavy equipment, and anything could go wrong, and literally life-threatening things could happen. So what he did was he understood the business of touring, and he found a really interesting little way to make sure. And if you also read about Van Halen, when they did find a brown M&M, they trashed every hotel, every place they went to, they would just trash and leave and say, you're in breach of contract. So I thought that was pretty interesting. There you go. Break down silos. And I'm going to actually call this walls. Ben Judy, his presentation last year at STRAT with silos was just such an awesome thing. But anybody know who this is? Who is it? Rick Rubin. Rick Rubin, in 1986, was 23 years old. And he was producing a rap band. And he decided that the audience that he was looking for was a similar audience to another audience he knew about. And there was this old band that was really popular in the 70s. They were floundering. They basically had kind of petered out. There was drug problems. And then there was this up-and-coming rap band. And he got them together. The rap band didn't want to do it, but he got them together, and in 1986, released a song that is seen by many as the beginning of the silo breaking between music genres and between cultures.
It wasn't me, she was fooling, but she knew what she was doing when she told me how to walk. She told me to walk this way, talk this way, walk this way, talk this way. She told me to walk this way.
So, and then that, as you probably have seen and heard, has spawned lots of other imitators, one of which is my favorite, so I just...
Anybody know? How low can you go? Death row? What a brother know. Once again, back is the incredible rhyme animal, the uncannibal thief. Public enemy number one. 5 said freeze. And I got young. Can I tell him never had?
Just the wax that Terminator X. Anyway, sorry, that was very indulgent, but if you are Public Enemy or Anthrax fans, I'm hoping you enjoy that. So let's talk about banding together with diverse talent. This is a really important piece, and I love looking at this audience with a very diverse audience. And I will tell you that when we think about UX strategy, this is not rock and roll or a team. And it's just one white guy trying to do the whole thing himself. I actually captured a vine that I believe is the quintessential vine, and probably my favorite slide in this deck, that captures Chris Martin and Coldplay, and it's this. We got to see that one more time, right? Now that you know it, now ready? I hate Coldplay. So I will say that I think this field, and rock and roll as well, has embraced, again, diverse backgrounds, diverse experiences. And I'd like to show you a collection, and these are kind of self-explanatory with music, but from religion to gender, all of the interesting permutations of rock and roll. Not all of them, but certainly a fun selection.
24 hours to go. I'm going to a Seder. Something to do and somewhere to go. I'm going to a Seder. Save my reputation. Living in the past, new generation.
時は来たもう迷わない握りしめたの18期
So, yeah, that's baby metal. They're three young Japanese women that are taking the metal world by storm, as you can see here with their friends. And then I also want to make a call out to those of you that are over maybe the age of 40, let's just say. This is a field, like rock and roll, that is, as Bev so eloquently pointed out, 15 plus years experience counts for something.
If you wanna stick around, you gotta go, this is sad.
Paul McCartney and Nirvana, which I thought was awesome. I just saw Paul McCartney, and it was awesome. And I could not, for the real hardcore rockers here, I could not do a presentation about rock and roll without the man.
You know I'm going to lose, and gambling's for fools, but that's the way I like it, baby. I don't want to live forever.
He didn't live forever. All right.
And don't forget the joke.
Okay, so let's talk about persevering. We work in a field where we have been fighting our way to the top of the food chain for a very long time. This is Dave Grohl, who during a performance fell down, and just to give you an idea of what actually happened to him, that was in Gothenburg, and yet the show must go on. And I know in our field, again, we come across roadblocks at the executive level, at the organizational level, within our teams, and it's just interesting to watch how folks can actually persevere through that, and not only persevere, but innovate. And this is one of my favorite stories. This is a sheet metal press. Kid is 17 years old, and he's quitting his job working at an industrial factory. It's his last day. You know why? Because he's joining a band. And he goes home for lunch, and he says, "Mom, I'm not going to go back because I just want to be a band." She said, "You go back and you finish out your day." So he does. And the guy that he was working with that works the sheet metal press left. And he decided to put his hands in it and got 2 of his fingers chopped off. Basically being told that his rock and roll career was over. But what he did, which I think was just amazing and inspiring, was he got a bottle of fairy liquid, literally fairy liquid, which is a British kind of washing up liquid, and melted it down, and he put it over his fingers. This is a little bit of an early version, but he literally melted pieces down, but they still kind of hurt his fingers a little bit, so he figured out, he used banjo strings. And he was inspired by a guy named Django Reinhardt. His foreman, his supervisor, said, "Hey, don't worry about it. Django Reinhardt, one of the greatest jazz guitarists, he actually plays with 2 fingers, so he was inspired. He lowered the pitch on his guitar. And with all of that, he went back into it. And the first song that he ever wrote, he is called by just about any name you can name in the metal industry, the godfather of metal. The first song he wrote after going through all of this and figuring out a way was this. You might have heard of it. Metalhead. Well, I also just saw them August 23rd, so I'm a little excited about that. So, seeking out strategic partners. All right, so you got a team, right? A team's like a band. What does your team look like, right? No band can function, right? You're only as good as your least player. So when you think about within your team, and then we're going to go beyond your team, but within your team, who are you engaging? And at what level? And who aren't you engaging in that process? And I want to keep going back to the idea that, again, UX is about business, and business extends beyond what you consider a core team, a product manager, right? So I always ask people, like, who are you working with and who aren't you working with? And to that end, I want to show you somebody that, anybody know who this is? Yeah, this is Aaron Irizarry. He is the director of user experience at NASDAQ. He, it turns out, had a past as a lead singer of a Christian, I call it Cookie Monster rock band, because this is him singing. This is my favorite. So now he just writes books about design.